You probably believe you have a personality that belongs only to you. Your taste in music, the way you laugh, the opinions you defend at dinner tables, the way you dress, even the way you fall in love. It all feels like it came from somewhere deep inside you, something untouched, something original. But what if none of it actually started with you? What if almost everything you call yourself was quietly built by other people, other moments, other minds, long before you ever noticed it happening? Stay with that thought for a second, because it's about to get uncomfortable. Think about the last time you said something and someone replied, "Wow, that's such a you thing to say." It felt good, right? It felt like proof. Proof that you are distinct. Proof that there is a version of you that nobody else could ever replicate. But here's what nobody talks about. That sentence you said, the one that felt so personally yours, was very likely something you absorbed. A phrase from a show you watched years ago. A rhythm of speech from a parent or an older sibling. A joke structure you unconsciously copied from a friend in 10th grade. You didn't invent it. You inherited it. And then you forgot where it came from, so it started to feel like it was always yours. This is one of the strangest tricks the human mind plays on itself. Psychologists call it cryptomnesia, the experience of encountering an idea, forgetting its source, and later believing you created it yourself. It happens constantly, and most people never catch it happening to them. Imagine your brain as a sponge that has been soaking in other people's words, expressions, values, and reactions since the day you were born. Every conversation you've ever had left a residue. Every show, every song, every argument you overheard between your parents. None of it disappeared. It sank in, mixed together, and eventually came out sounding like you. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Developmental psychologists have long understood that infants learn who they are largely through mirroring. Before a baby can speak, it studies faces. It watches expressions, tone, reactions. Mirror neurons in the brain activate not only when we perform an action, but when we simply watch someone else perform it. This means, from your very first months of life, your nervous system was already rehearsing other people's behavior as if it were your own. So, by the time you're old enough to say, "This is just who I am," a huge portion of who you are has already been shaped by imitation you don't even remember. But wait, it goes deeper than childhood. Have you noticed how people slowly start dressing more like the friend group they spend the most time with? Or picking up phrases from a partner they've been dating for a while? Or developing opinions that suspiciously resemble the opinions of whoever they follow most closely online? This isn't weakness. This is how human identity has always worked. We are, at our core, social creatures wired for belonging, and belonging requires blending. Social psychologists refer to this as social contagion, the unconscious spread of behaviors, moods, and attitudes between people who are simply near each other often enough. You don't choose to catch it. You don't even notice it happening. One day you just realize you started saying "honestly" before every sentence. And so has everyone in your friend group, and none of you remember who said it first. Now here's the twist that changes everything. If identity is built this way, layer after layer of borrowed behavior, borrowed language, borrowed reactions, then originality isn't really about creating something from nothing. Nobody does that. Not artists, not musicians, not you. Originality is something else entirely. Let's talk about creativity for a second, because this is where the myth completely falls apart. We love the story of the lone genius, the artist who sits alone and produces something the world has never seen. It's a beautiful story. It's also almost never true. Research in creativity science repeatedly shows that innovation is rarely a spontaneous burst of originality. It's usually the result of combining existing ideas in a new arrangement. Musicians build on chord progressions they grew up hearing. Writers unconsciously echo the structure of stories that shaped them as children. Even scientific breakthroughs tend to emerge when someone connects two already existing concepts that nobody had thought to combine before. Even your favorite song, the one that feels like it captures something no one has ever captured before, was built from scales, rhythms, and emotional patterns humans have been using for centuries. What feels new is really just a new combination of very old pieces. So, if creativity itself isn't pure invention, why would your personality be any different? Think about it. Every belief you hold had to come from somewhere. Every value was either taught to you, modeled in front of you, or formed as a reaction against something you witnessed. Even your rebellion, the moment you decided to be nothing like your parents, was shaped entirely by your parents. You didn't escape their influence. You just flipped it, which means it still defined you. This is where it becomes strangely comforting instead of unsettling. Because if nobody is truly original in the way we imagine, then the pressure to be one of a kind was never a fair standard to begin with. You were never supposed to invent yourself from a blank page. You were always going to be shaped by your environment, your relationships, your culture, your losses, your favorite stories. That's not a flaw. That's simply what being human looks like. Here's what's interesting about identity from a neuroscience perspective. The brain doesn't store you as one fixed file. Identity is constructed and reconstructed constantly through memory, and memory itself is unreliable. Every time you recall a memory, your brain doesn't play it back like a video. It reconstructs it, slightly altering details based on your current mood, your current beliefs, and even conversations you've had recently. This means the story you tell about who you are is not a fixed archive. It's a living narrative your brain keeps rewriting. So even the sense of a stable, unchanging true self is in many ways an illusion your brain maintains to give you a feeling of continuity. Without that illusion, you would feel unbearably fragmented every time you woke up. Your brain needs you to believe you are one consistent person, so it smooths over the gaps. Now here's a psychological observation most people miss completely. The reason people cling so tightly to the idea of being original often has less to do with creativity and more to do with fear. Fear of being interchangeable. Fear of not mattering. If you're simply a product of your environment, then some part of you worries that you're replaceable, that anyone raised in your exact circumstances would have turned out just like you. That thought can feel threatening to the ego. But here's the deeper truth that flips the entire fear upside down. Even if two people experienced the exact same environment, they would still turn out differently because human minds don't just absorb influence, they interpret it. Two siblings raised by the same parents in the same house often become completely different adults because each child filters the same experiences through a different temperament, different sensitivities, different internal reactions. This is where your originality actually lives. Not in creating something from nothing, but in how uniquely you interpret everything that has shaped you. Think of it like light passing through different types of glass. The light source might be identical, but the color, the shape, the pattern it creates depends entirely on the glass it passes through. You are the glass. Every experience that has ever touched you passes through your specific nervous system, your specific memories, your specific sensitivities, and comes out shaped in a way no one else could exactly replicate. That is your originality, not invention, interpretation. Have you ever noticed how two people can watch the same movie and walk away with completely different takeaways? One person cries at the ending, another feels nothing. One person quotes a random side character for years. Another barely remembers they existed. Same movie, same scenes, same music. Completely different internal experience. That difference is you. So when you say something and someone responds, that's such a you thing to say. Maybe they're not recognizing something you invented. Maybe they're recognizing the unique way all your borrowed influences combined inside you, filtered through your particular history, your particular pain, your particular joy, until it became something that could only sound the way it sounds when it comes out of you. This reframing changes something important. It means you don't need to chase originality by trying to be different for the sake of being different. That version of originality is exhausting and usually artificial anyway. Real distinctiveness isn't about rejecting influence. It's about noticing which influences you've absorbed, understanding how they shaped your reactions, and allowing your unique nervous system to keep interpreting the world in its own way. There's a strange kind of peace in accepting that you are, in many ways, an echo of everyone who has ever shaped you. Your grandmother's stubbornness, your best friend's humor, a teacher's offhand comment that somehow rewired how you see failure, a heartbreak that quietly taught you to protect yourself in ways you never fully noticed. All of it lives inside you, blended together into something that finally became a person. You are not a copy. You are a collage. And a collage made from 1,000 unrepeatable pieces, arranged in a way no one else on Earth has ever arranged them, is still something the world has never seen before. So maybe the question was never, why is nobody truly original? Maybe the real question is, what would happen if you stopped fearing your influences and started paying attention to them instead? What would you notice about yourself if you traced every strong opinion back to where it first came from? What would you learn about your own reactions if you asked, honestly, whose voice is this really? And that question leads somewhere even stranger, because if so much of your identity was shaped without your awareness, it raises another unsettling possibility. How much of what you believe is a decision you are making right now versus a memory of a decision someone else made for you a long time ago? That is where the next part of this story begins, in the hidden difference between the choices you think you're making freely and the ones your mind already made for you before you even realized there was a choice at all.